close out of the one that has the picture. You could do remove. There you go. And then just uncheck the don't report. Uncheck the report distribution. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We are good. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first monthly meeting of 2026, which is just bizarre to say 2026. I see Matt, Water and Wastewater, has signed in. I just want to ask you, Matt, we're going to take department reports as submitted to focus, go down and take a deeper dive on the police department. Is there something in particular that you're on for, or were you just on to listen?
Just on to listen, and yeah, if you need anything, but
okay. I just didn't want you to sit here all night and then I didn't call you.
No.
Opportunity right at the beginning. Okay.
All good.
So, calling to order. May I have a roll call, please, clerk?
Trustee Hall. Trustee Bosey.
Here.
Trustee Bardis.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Here.
Mayor Foley.
Yeah. Here. Okay, first is announcements. Everybody's asking. Christmas trees go out on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday in the month of January. Take all of the ornaments, lights, artificial materials off them and leave them street side. I know we have tight locations on village streets, so do your best not to block the sidewalks, please, or get them into the lane of traffic. Any other announcements from anyone? No? Okay. Moving on to opportunity to add or modify the agenda. We missed this item yesterday before deadline, so I wanted to make a motion to add the recommendation for the hiring of an employee for the shared employee for highway and water and wastewater to our section on board business. I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? First is a public hearing on a proposed local law. It's the first one of 2026. You'll recall some of you may recall at the end of last year, we had conversations about the fact that our code was silent on the Justice Court, which made the transition a bit difficult. So this chapter has been drafted by the village attorney to establish the position of associate and acting justice and establish the residency requirements for the village justice, associate/acting village justice, and court clerk for the village of Cold Spring. It has been posted on the website. First discussion among the board. Any discussion? Okay. I will then vote to open the public comment hearing. Public hearing. Second, on favor? Aye. Would anyone like to speak? Okay, I would make a motion to leave this open until the end of the meeting in case anyone else shows up with comment.
Question, has there been any written correspondence about that?
No. You mean from the public?
Yeah.
No, not that I've received. Have you?
No.
Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And moving on to our monthly agenda portion. Village departments are first, and as I was mentioning to Matt, who is now gone, we're going to accept reports as written. I want to call out a couple of things, and we'll come back to it as a vote under board business, but we are above 80% on the reservoir. The number is 91% as of the 8th. This report is as of the end of December, but as of the 8th, we are at 91%. We are able to lift the emergency order, but please ask everyone to continue to use water wisely. The other thing I wanted to call out is the firefighter of the year. Charlotte Brooks is the firefighter of the year. Congratulations to Charlotte. And I also wanted to encourage everyone to read the fire company's monthly report. It is their 130th anniversary. The chief has put together a history and also goals for this year, which is A first.
Nice.
Not that they haven't had goals, but it's the first that they're sharing them and making them public, and I think it's a really good read to understand the work that happens in the firehouse. We also have our first Justice Court report from the Honorable Luke Hilbert. Okay. Unless anyone wants to discuss any other department, I'd like to focus in with the officer in charge, the commanding officer of the police department, on his reports. Anything from on other departments before we move on? Okay, I'll turn it over to Matt. Matt has been working on with the CAD. With the CAD system, we have the capacity for much finer grained data tracking. And from that data, we can learn about performance and needs. And I wanted Matt to talk us through. We learned some interesting things for 2025.
A lot of interesting things. A lot of things in this report surprised me. Basically, the report summarizes the police activity recorded by the department during 2025. All the data comes from our RMS system, our records management system, which is the new CAD system, which we are using, that's provided by the sheriff's office. Basically what it is it takes all the types of incidents, call numbers, all the data throughout the year, and I go in and I start to look for certain things. After this initial report, I ended up diving down a rabbit hole and trying to figure out when, why, and how a lot of these things are happening, how they come about, and I'm still filtering through that information. But the main thing, the main takeaways from this report is our reactive activity and our proactive activity. Now, the difference between reactive and proactive is reactive is when the officers are when there is a call for service, when the officer is dispatched to a call from 911, the patrol phone, desk phone, whatever that may be. Proactive activity is officer initiated. This year being my first year as officer in charge, there were some things that I wanted to tighten up in the department as far as what types of calls we were answering to, what types of calls we were documenting. A lot of the stuff that was documented previously it's still documented, but it's not documented as it was being documented previously. It was basically, to me, it was a waste of time doing it. So I wanted them to focus more on writing cleaner reports, documenting important incidents, and spending less time filling out all this information that at one time was suggested by previous administration, not the last administration, before that. So I was trying to tighten up the ship a little bit by evaluating our patrol strategies, our enforcement operations, and priorities. Was also using our resources that we have more effectively and efficiently to patrol the village, so to speak, without having to physically drive every inch of this village. We were able to be in multiple places at once and respond more efficiently to those locations when we needed to, rather than traveling to these high traffic areas on a regular basis. We didn't need to do that.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah.
So we received a grant, when was it, last year or the year before, a technology grant 3 years ago. And we started using cameras in the tunnels at the waterfront. Now, in previous years, we've had multiple property checks in those areas of the village. So wherever the officer is, they go down there, they drive around the waterfront, they'll walk around, they'll walk through the tunnel. But now they're able to monitor those locations from another place in the village. While they're patrolling another area, they can still keep an eye on those locations without having to physically be there.
So you have a live feed.
We have a live feed, yeah, it's in all the cars, we're able to use it. It's available for the officers to use if they choose to use it. And if there's any type of suspicious activity, they'll go down there, they'll check it out. And if there's nothing going on, there's no reason for them to go down there. So it saves them a lot of time, saves us a lot of time in doing that.
So basically, correct.
Go ahead, you go first.
So basically, it's like a TV screen with like a security camera set up.
Yeah,
Where you can
basically.
glance over it
Yep.
and say, okay, there's movement here, all right.
Yeah, yep. And if anything looks out of place or it's something that they feel that they need to investigate, they will. If it's normal activity, there's no reason to go down there and just drive around in that area.
I think too, it will help with situations we've had in the past where we have a single officer and something's happening in another part of the village and
Right.
where they may not have eyes. Now
Right.
we have eyes on
We have eyes on those areas.
priority locations.
In the past, were, I would say, high crime areas in the village, for the village. And those type of calls have been reduced because of that, so that was something good. A lot of the activities that the officers have been doing are more directed by the demands of the community. A lot of the calls were requests for service from residents. And that's everything aside from EMS calls and traffic stops and alarm responses. But the thing that stood out the most to me is our seasonal changes. The community demand for police services remained the same in 2024 and 2025 at reactive call activity at 962, the exact same number both years.
And reactive again is dispatched.
The time frame for those calls is between mid to late March until November, with our peak season being in June, rather than September, October, and November. Both years, 2024 and 2025, our peak season, our call volume started to rise in April, peaking in mid-May, both years. This year, it kind of stayed at a steady high rate through November. Last year, it kind of peaked up in April and then came down a little bit, and stabilized through July, September, October, November, December.
Matt, is the graph that you prepared available in the backup to the public?
It will be, the yearly report will be available, on the police department section of the website, soon.
It is incredibly striking.
It is, I didn't because when we're out there and we're patrolling and we're working out there every day, even you guys as a board, you see this peak activity. We've always assumed it starts in September. We start preparing for it before September, but we always say September, October, November, we're gonna need more patrol officers on the weekend. There's an increase in vehicle and pedestrian traffic during that time. The officers and the feedback I was getting from them was, it's like that all the time. It's not just like that in September. And you don't really notice it when you're out there every day. It just seems like it's the same thing all the time. But when you look at a chart like this and you have that data in front of you where it shows you, wow, the people are coming here and the cars are coming here a lot sooner than we expected, and we need to prepare for that a lot sooner than we normally do. We need to increase resources a lot sooner in the year than we do. We're waiting too long. And it's just a public safety concern, because the call volume is there. The call volume isn't changing. What's changing is the ability for our officers to interact with the community like they have been in previous years because of the call volume during that time. They're consumed by repetitive calls for service on the Main Street corridor, and Route 9D.
Question one?
Well, I was gonna ask about that. It's like, can you characterize what kinds of calls? Is it an increase in all of the calls or of a certain kind of call? And then I guess is it nine, like, and do you have a sense of a proportion of like calls in the village to outside of the village and whether that changes throughout the year?
Okay, so yes, I do. Just give me a second. So, where is it? I got it somewhere. I just got a lot of bookmarks, yeah.
Your summary has location patterns and
It does,
Meeting
that's
places.
for 2025, and that was, when I initially did this report, it gives you, I was getting like a lot of information in front of me, and I tried to reduce it down to a smaller number because this was just, it was a lot of information for me to filter through, and I was like, nobody's gonna read this, it's too long. So basically what I did was I said, give me the top 10 locations of where our activity, most activity is. And then I said, let's do top 5. So we ended up narrowing it down to the top 5 locations. Most of those calls were traffic related and EMS related. And most of those calls came from Main Street, Chestnut, Route 9D. The call volume started to peak in April and didn't taper off until October, but then it shot up again in November and tapered back off in December.
Did that answer your question?
So it sounds like a lot of, like in the peak season, it's traffic and EMS.
Yes, traffic and EMS, and most of it has been like parking complaints. A lot of it is parking complaints is where a lot of this, well, what a lot of these calls are generated is from people calling, complaining about parking, whether it's resident parking, people parking too long, and our officers have to go out there and
That's
Black
an
cars,
important,
et cetera.
it's
Right.
really important.
or I mean, it's also like, that's important for us to know, to be thinking. about.
Exactly, and that's, yeah, that's why the mayor had asked me to come and speak about this because like I said, we don't, on a regular basis, it's not something that we really notice. We notice some days we have more calls than others. And since I've been here, we've always assumed that peak season is the fall. And judging by this data, it's not the fall, it's spring, and it continues through the fall. And the comparison between 2024 and 2025 is it doesn't show an increase or a decrease. It shows a decrease in proactive activity, but our reactive activity is the same. Now, 2024, the trailheads were open. There was more activity going on in the village. This year it was closed, but our reactive calls stayed the same. Once those trails, I'm just saying as an example,
Yes.
this is what I'm thinking about is that once these trails open back up, these numbers are going to be higher. And that puts a strain on what we have here. Not just the police department, the village as a whole.
Yeah.
It's not just the police department, because the police department, the village board relies on the police department for the enforcement of, the safety and the enforcement of laws in the village. But the sheer number of people that are coming to this village year by year, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. But what we're doing is staying the same because we can't do anything else. There's nothing else we can do
Yeah.
with what we have right now. So it's good to, these are the things that I ended up getting more into and trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, and why is this like this? Now I can explain a lot of the proactive activity because there were certain things, every once in a while, I'll get a phone call, I'll get an email from a resident or something like that. Hey, this is going on. Do you think you can look into this? Okay, I'll have the officers start focusing on those concerns based off of the needs of the community. So they'll focus on that rather than going out there and doing, I don't want to say whatever they want, but doing other things to generate activity. you know?
Well, like responding to, are you okay, right? So
Right.
our wellness checks are proactive
Right.
activity.
Yes, yeah, they are,
But
yep,
I also feel like our community of policing approach is proactive, and that's a good thing. So like, you know, it.
yeah, it is. It
That-
is,
that's a good-
but
yes.
the thing is that this, our being able to do that, we, we're consumed by the call numbers and we're not able to do those things anymore. And those things coming from this department who's always been able to do that and now it's starting to decline. That's a concern of mine because that's what people look for in this police department.
Yeah.
That's what they like about this police department. And I talk to people in the street and they're like, I don't see you guys anymore. What's going on?
Mhm.
But I see this, that, and the other thing. And you guys are here, you're there, you're doing this, you're doing that. But I don't get to talk to you,
Mhm.
you know? So we're, you know, that's what we're here for. We're here for public safety. We're here to enforce the laws. We're not here to chit chat all day long, but it is a part of the
Yeah.
village and the police department
And
to
knowing
have
that-
that relationship with the community. And we haven't been able to do that because of,
In the same way. You've been
in
able to do it.
the
but not
same
the
way, because of the volume of the calls. It is what it is. And, you know, I am working on ways to try to mitigate that, to help it, to try to, I definitely am gonna be requesting coverage a lot earlier in the year rather than waiting so long because we need it. I can't have one guy out there handling all these calls on his own during the weekend. And this is mostly weekend calls. It's not during the week. During the week, the call volume is significantly less and it shoots up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Can I ask another question about that? How much would, if a lot of it is parking, how much would additional like parking enforcement officer support, like pull away from that?
Well, we have parking enforcement. So the officers, when the parking enforcement here, though, the officers on duty don't necessarily have to deal with those parking issues, but they're still going to receive the calls and they're still going to have to respond to those calls before parking enforcement can go and enforce those calls. Yeah, so basically what happens is parking enforcement doesn't get the phone call. We get the phone
So
call.
someone's driveway is blocked, you guys.
Right,
call
we
and then
have to
they-
go,
Yeah.
and if it's a situation where we can issue a citation, we'll contact parking enforcement.
Yeah.
They'll go and issue the citation. But if it requires a tow, or if somebody's, you know, for example, somebody's car gets hit by somebody, we have to be there
Yeah.
for that. It's not
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that
yeah.
parking enforcement can handle. A majority of that stuff is handled by parking enforcement. It's the calls for service that take away from that. So increasing the number of parking enforcement officers, is it gonna get us anything? I don't think it's gonna get us much because they're doing.
In this area.
In this
To
area.
be clear.
Right,
yeah.
they're doing a great job as it is, working with the police department working with parking enforcement to get this stuff done. It's just the number of complaints that come through the police department. They don't go directly to parking enforcement.
Tony, did you have a question? I
Yeah,
saw you
yeah.
blustering
I
down.
got a question. Actually, two questions. I'll tell you the question first, then you can do the answers. Assist other agencies. That's one question.
Yes.
What is that? And with all the, this is great, you got all this charting and graphing and stuff. Can you like zoom in on, I don't need this answer now.
Mhm.
Like for the overnight activity as opposed to the daytime activities?
Yep.
Okay,
I
great.
can do that. Yep. As far as your first question, which
Mhm.
was
Assisting
other agencies, so.
There's a lot of that. Is that like
Yes.
ambulances or?
It's any other outside agency other than the Village of Cold Spring Police Department. So that is MTA, fire department, ambulance, sheriff's office, whatever that may be, social services.
So if there's a call up on Route 9 or out of the village, you guys head up there?
Not necessarily. If there is a call for assistance, like if they call us and say, hey, we need you to come out here, we will go. And we
Mhm.
do get those calls quite often.
Right.
From here, all throughout Cold Spring and Nelsonville, we're the closest responding agency. And quite often we will get dispatched to those calls just because of our availability
Mhm.
and our distance to the call.
Proximity.
Yeah, so if we're, you know, if it's a legitimate emergency and they need an officer there right away, and our response time is 3 minutes and another agency is 15, 20, we're gonna be the first ones to respond to that, so we will respond to that outside of the village limits.
Mhm.
Just for officer safety and the safety of the people in the community.
Right.
It's better to have somebody there than somebody
Right.
waiting, right, exactly.
Thank you.
Questions from the two of you?
So Matt, you're saying the time of greatest need for you, or the greatest response is not only expanded temporarily, but it's also shifted forward up into March, April, May, June. And that right now it's been capped because of the closure of trails and so forth. So next year, potentially, or when trails reopen, you may have, it may be the same pattern, but you're going to have a higher threshold, right? Or a higher overall number. So
What I'm trying not to think about.
right, but you're gonna have to, right? So, can you speak to what you think is driving that? Would you say visitation? And two, what are the implications for that, and what are you having to think about in terms of operationally, in terms of manpower, vehicles, whatever, and the cost of that? What is your thinking spread out over the next 2-3 years of what this is gonna look like and what kind of new demands it's gonna put on you?
Like I said, I'm trying not to think about it, but I have been thinking about it. This is that rabbit hole I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I am working on right now, I'm trying to figure all that out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out the best course of action to make sure that we're able to handle whatever comes at us in the next year. I'm working on securing other resources to try to figure. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get a more definitive number on what's going on. I know there's a lot of people here, but I don't know exactly how many. I know there's a lot of vehicle traffic. You can't even drive down Main Street on a weekend, but I don't know exactly how many vehicles it is. I'd like to get some sort of data in here to see how much, I want to see the increase in vehicle and pedestrian traffic and see if there's any correlation to that between that and the calls. It's showing me that in the data that I have in front of me. That's the easiest way to explain it, but I want to see it. I want a definitive answer that this is what's going on and this is why. So there's ways that I can do that. I just haven't been able to explore those resources yet fully.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, these are the ideas that I have that I'm trying to work on and getting that information, because that's what it looks like. And I see, patrols increasing on the weekends, and like you said, that's going to be manpower. These guys are capped. A lot of them are capped salary wise because mostly they're all retired. So they can only work a certain number of hours. It means I have to get more officers. Now we're patrolling more. Our vehicles are falling apart as it is. We start putting more miles on those cars.
All of them. You have a couple new vehicles.
One to be clear. All the other cars all have the same amount of hours and the same amount of miles on them
Okay,
because we're not able to rotate them out like we would like to.
because the others are
Because
having
the other ones-
difficulty.
So the other ones are, the repair bills for the other vehicles they're all the same. Unfortunately, it's just because we're using them more. So then that's gonna go up, the amount of times we're using the car. Then you got fuel costs, you got the officer salary, bringing more officers in, and what else? I'm sorry?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Well, the maintenance cost has been going up over the last several years because of our fleet is aging. So every year we have to do more to the vehicles to keep them maintained, to keep them duty ready.
It doesn't sound like the impact's gonna be neutral though.
No,
No.
no.
No, I think as far as counting the cars and pedestrians, and you might know more about this than me. A little while ago, they put up cameras that counted cars and people.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know how to go about doing that, but
Yeah.
that might help you. towards-
That's what I'm leaning towards, and I'm looking at other resources to try to get some assistance with that. So it's not something that I believe that the county may have some equipment available that we may be able to use for something like that.
Mhm.
Because the data that you're talking about, I reviewed a lot of that data,
Mhm.
and I don't agree with the numbers
Okay.
in that data. it seems like it's really far off for what we're actually
Higher,
seeing.
lower?
It's a lot lower than what it says it is. There's no reason why.
Well, I don't think we should be talking about the from those cameras, because that was also not like our.
Right.
No, it wasn't ours.
Yeah.
Pause for a second,
Yeah.
please. I want to make sure that the record is very clear about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As part of the development of the draft generic environmental impact statement, which came out a year ago for the Fjord Trail, there were counting devices and cameras used at particular intersections.
Yes.
Not all around the village, at particular intersections and in particular periods of time.
Correct.
That we believe, and it has our consulting planner has made the comment, as did the HHFT's own data committee, raise concerns that the timing of the counts and the location of the counts didn't capture what we might consider peak usage. So to Matt's point, Matt has reviewed the DGEIS. He submitted comments along with the village as part of a packet of comments. The final environmental impact statement, which is, we're going to talk about this more later, but just to put a cap on this piece of the conversation, that is the response to the public comments from the draft generic environmental impact statement. It is available to read on the parks website and on the HHFT website. I think, Matt, you've expressed some very clear concerns about conclusions reached.
Yeah.
On the first responder need, policing, fire, EMS. I think we'll talk about it more, but
Yeah,
want to
we'll
give what your
talk about
concern
that
is?
more. That's something totally different from all of this. And yeah, I can't really use any of that. Could I use it? I could, but I don't feel that the information is accurate enough for me to make my own conclusion from that data. I want to see it in front of me. I want to gather my own data, and I want to put it out there and gather that data when this paperwork tells me when peak season is.
Yeah. When
the highest volume of calls is, vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic. That's what I want to see. I want to put some sort of device out there that's going to be able to get me this information during those times. Those times are, April, May, June, July, August, September, November. Those are the times when we got to look at this stuff, and it's stuff that should have been looked at before, but we never did it because we never had definitive numbers like this in front of us to where we could look at it. What we went off of was what we experience out there and what we see out there. We say, oh yeah, it's during the fall season. It's not.
Well, also, I want to make sure we're clear on the record that it is not that the Cold Spring Police Department has not been compiling data. We have not we've kept counts in Excel spreadsheets, right? And those are reviewed every month by the board. But when CAD came online, you were more analytical.
Yeah.
Capacity was given to you.
I was able to use that information a lot better than our old recording systems because I could specifically look at certain things. And if I had an idea, I want to look at this, I could look at that and it would put it right in front of me before we had to search through those records every single day. Now, when I go through the daily reports, I can see that activity. I can see it every day. But after you do that for days, weeks, months, it all kind of blends in together. You kind of lose what you're looking for when you're looking at it on a daily basis. But at the end of the year, when you put it all together and I'm able to develop a chart like this, and then I can take this chart and I can go back through those record systems and start looking at things in particular, I'm able to get a better idea of what we're going to need, not only as a police department, but as a village as a whole throughout the year. And I think that's very important.
I think it's also worth noting that the FGIS says that there will be no significant impacts regarding emergency, adverse impacts, regarding emergency services in the village.
When we get to that, I did go through a fair amount of it. There is a lot of information in there. I wasn't able to get a print copy, and it took too long to download for me to even attempt to print a copy. So I did my best with it. There was a lot of things in there that
It's hard to read, hard to reference.
it's hard to read, but there was a lot of things in there that just didn't match up to what's actually happening here in the village and within the police department.
Agreed.
Or reflect our
Yeah, when we
comments.
get into it, I'll get into it more, but that's, separate from this. This is
Well, I
just
don't see them as necessarily separate. I mean,
I mean, if you wanna roll
there's a
into-
reality of rising numbers of people visiting, and we have to manage them, and
Yeah.
it's just real, and it's a budgetary reality for us.
Mhm.
I expected the numbers to be higher in the spring than we have thought previously. I didn't expect them to be higher than the fall. But,
Yes.
Just from a lived experience of working in this building all day long through the spring and summer, you can feel the activity in the spring. I think many of us noted in the spring, "Oh, there's so many people on the street, so many people on the street in the middle of the day." The season has grown, and we can't just plan for leaf peeping anymore because that's gone. We're a destination for, 10 months of the year.
We're a tourist attraction, and it's gonna bring people here. There's good things and there's bad things about it. I think we should embrace the good things about it, but we need to prepare for that increase in people visiting the village during those times of year. And it's definitely putting a strain on resources, not just the police department, but as a whole in the village. And, that's something that we need to look at. And I didn't anticipate it, it is leveled out over the past few years. It's pretty much remained the same. But there are certain things in place, such as the Fjord Trail, which is going to increase the visitor population in the village over time. And that's going to affect us as a whole, not just the police department, the village as a whole.
So going forward, I assume as you're analyzing and building out your documentation, we'll have a periodic check-in from you to see what you've learned.
At some point, I'm still going through it. I broke this down a couple of times, several times, yearly, quarterly, multiple years to go through all this stuff. And it's pretty much there. If there's anything specific, like basically the activity trends is what you guys would be most interested in, because that's pretty much the most interesting part of not this year in particular, but the last several years. The CAD system, that was implemented in December of 2023. So that was when we first started using it. So any data prior to 2023, I did not go through. And May of that year, 2023, yes, that's when I became officer in charge. Right?
2024.
2024.
I'm not actually sure. It was May, but now it's kind of
Like a year
blurry.
and a half, not two
Yeah.
and a half years. That makes sense.
Yeah, a year and a half. So that's when, my first full year was this past year, where I was still learning how to manage a police department. And now I am more focused on using the resources that I have at hand to try to improve on what we're doing out there. And this was a really good way for me to see what's going on and the things that we need to focus on moving forward. And the time of year where we need to start preparing for you know, is a lot sooner than we all expected it to be.
Well, I'm really grateful to have this kind of data available. I appreciate the time that you've taken and particularly to provide visuals that are easy to grasp. That it also makes advocacy for us easier, makes our talking points clearer. So I appreciate that.
And that was the main thing with this whole thing, which is why I put this together the way I did, was because just to give you guys a basic rundown of the year, really doesn't do much for you guys
Right.
and the and the village and the people of the village. But by breaking it down and people are able to see this, they're able to look at it and see what's going on. Which is why I put that together, was because there's a lot of things in here that were overlooked because it was just, we didn't notice it as it was happening. We knew it was happening, but we didn't notice
You didn't
how,
contextualize it.
how bad it actually was until I put this together. And that's why I said, you know what, this is something that everybody's got to see, because there are things that are going on in the village where this data is going to benefit the village as a whole, not, you know, not just us. This isn't for us. This is for you guys in the village to see actually what's going on here. And it's, you know, it's outside of what we would consider normal, is what I would say.
And it helps us, it helps us to plan, and it will help us to plan.
Planning, and it helps you advocate for resources that we
Yeah.
need, that, you know, we're either not getting or we don't have right now. Because there's a need for it.
I think also just quickly, as we go forward, we'll be able to do year-on-year comparisons and
Exactly.
so forth, which will be helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for all of the times that we express our frustration at shared services or funding from the county, this is one of the times when we have to recognize a real benefit. We do pay for CAD, but at a greatly reduced
Oh.
rate because it is subsidized by the county. And it provides connectivity on a lot of levels between our officers and the deputies and makes their mutual aid, improves their mutual aid, and gives us the benefit of all of this good data. So thank you to the sheriff, thank you to the county executive and the legislature for this particular shared service.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's benefited us quite a bit. And them as well, because there's been certain times where a lot of our data will get matched up to their data, and we're able to use that together to
Identify trends or.
identify trends, work on cases and criminal activity that may overlap into the different agencies. And that's just not between us and the sheriff's office. That goes to the other police departments as well in the county. So we're all on this one system, and we're able to see those patterns throughout the county as a whole, not just one municipality separate from the other. They all work together in this system. So it's good to, you know, because there is a lot of things that roll over from county to county. But if we all were all on our own separate systems, we would never know what it is. By having this system and being able to link all those things together, if I need something, or if something happens here and I need to look up that information, I can look it up, and then all of a sudden I notice that there's a pattern in Kent, Carmel, and Brewster.
Yeah.
So then I can contact those agencies and say, hey, were you guys aware of this? No, we weren't, but now we're going to look into it. Or they would call me and say, hey, we noticed some activity that's been going on down in Cold Spring that's similar to what's going on over here. You know, can we share that information? Are these things related? How do we figure this out? And we're able to work with pretty much everyone in the county through this one system. And we don't even have to be in the same room.
Fantastic.
It's really good.
Before we move on from policing, I just want to make note that Matt and I did attend the swearing in for the sheriff on Monday. He was not able to attend the New Year's Eve swearing in or New Year's Day. So they incorporated his swearing in with the recognition of promotions for the officers. So the new captains were announced. And there is, for the first time in the command staff in the sheriff's department, a female captain. So
Yes.
Yeah, you may
I-
remember her.
Corinne Pitt,
Corinne
and
Pitt.
she has been, I would say, our, let's say, a type of liaison between the village of Cold Spring and the sheriff's office for several years, at least as long as I've been in here. And I talked to her that day. She's gonna continue to do that. If we need anything down here, we can still continue to call her, even though she's in a different position now. And it's a well-deserved promotion.
Yes.
We're happy to be able to work with Corinne, and I'm glad that we're able to continue to work with her.
And one other very positive note as regards our engagement with the Sheriff's Department. John Alfano, who is a different captain, he is the captain for
BCI.
Bureau of Community Criminal Investigations. Sheriff is rolling out a liaison program with the 6 towns, assigning command staff to those towns. John Alfano has been assigned to us. We've had a very positive working experience with him as well. I have invited him to come over and meet the staff, but also if he wanted to come introduce himself to the board. So we'll sort that out in the coming months.
I've been working with him since I've been officer in charge. Between him and Corinne, they've helped me out with quite a bit.
And we also had a good conversation with the new Bureau of Emergency Services Commissioner Oster.
Mhm.
And following on some of the presentation that Matt made last time about that joint risk assessment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I asked him to come over and meet with us as well, and he's willing to do that, so we'll all get to ask him questions directly and work well together. Okay. On terms of, I'm gonna move, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Standing boards and committees, wasn't much activity in December, so there's not much to report, but, I just wanted to, address what was raised by the Tree Advisory Board. Please note, we've had many inquiries about the pruning work by Wright, WRIGHT trucks in the village over the last months. This is not village work. It's done on contract for Central Hudson within their rights of ways. More info about their legal right to do this pruning to maintain minimum line clearances can be found on the website, and the link is within the tree board's report, or you can go through the Central Hudson website. And she asks that complaints should be addressed to Central Hudson. Alas, there's not much we can do to stop the butchery that happens. And it is in fact butchery on most occasions. Okay. If there's nothing anyone wants to discuss about other standing boards and committees, I will turn it over to Laura for the Climate Smart Task Force.
Great. All right, so I have a presentation. Is it possible to bring it up?
If you can request sharing.
Oh, do you want me to sign in and request? So I should log in.
Yes.
Okay.
Hold, please.
Sorry, I should have, link.
We have been having technological difficulties
Yeah.
in the last 24 hours, so
No kidding.
Well, at least, yes, at least the village isn't served by Verizon.
it took a long time to upload the agenda.
Yeah.
Last night. Yeah.
It's really, I don't know why it's so slow.
Are you able to access it via the site while you're in
So
Zoom?
are you able to request screen sharing? So
Well,
you could.
I can't
screen-
get it, I can't get onto Zoom, so if you can show it and advance the slides, that would work well, but do you?
I can,
Doesn't need to.
let's see, I could, which I can do. Well, I mean, it's within the agenda. I mean, share the-
You know what, I think this is going to work. I'm in a meeting.
Laura Bosey entered the waiting room.
Oh,
Yep. Okay, so I will share, you can enable me to share.
I think you need to request.
It
Sharing?
says host disabled attendees.
I
for
can
sharing.
make you a co-host.
Yeah. Okay.
You should be able to share.
Mm. Okay. First, that then takes out the notes that so if you, there's some numbers that I can tell you once I'm not screen sharing, so hold for those, please. Okay. Well, maybe I'll start because Kathleen knows all this. Some of it is a little bit of background to bring your trustees up to date. Sorry, Toots and Kathleen have heard this spiel quite a bit and have seen our journey through this process. Okay, so this is kind of the background. So there was, and perhaps in the future again will be, a NYSERDA program for municipalities, where you kind of sign on to be part of it, and then through different sorts of actions by the municipality or by the community, you earn points that for a while were worth a whole bunch of money, which was very exciting. And so we earned over $300,000 to invest in municipal clean energy upgrades. And we've spent 125,000 already, and you can see from there EV trucks, LED lighting, and then with some small grants, we were allowed to do more flexible things like pollinator planting and street planting. So that's been great, and we're still working on a couple of those pieces. Now we have one grant. It's the largest one that we have. It's $175,000 as a single contract, with the expiration date of May 2028. So thankfully we have a little while to figure this out, but my personal preference is for us to like get this going and move on, because it's been quite a bit of work. NYSERDA is really restrictive in the ways that you can use the funding, and I have them listed there. They say that there's a way that you can make a custom project, but we were told by our liaisons that they've never heard of anybody getting that. And so I don't think that we should attempt to be the first. It's very challenging. So the options are solar on a village-owned property, electric vehicles, either road or non-road, electric charging stations, LED streetlights, building energy upgrades, which is like insulation and LED lighting, as well as heat pumps, which replace oil or gas heating, and electric landscaping equipment. So, we've already done a few of these. We've also pursued some of them and found that they're really challenging, like the energy efficiency and heat pumps.
In this building.
In this building.
Sure.
So I think that our best bet that I'm going to present to you is to do solar. And so that's what I'm going to show you. So why is that? We basically need to have, it works much better if it's one thing that uses all of the money, just because of how difficult the NYSERDA contracts are. And so solar is an expensive project, so it works well for the scale of the funding. And I think we could do probably 2 buildings. It can generally be completed relatively quickly as far as government things go quickly. And unlike we're finding with the energy efficiency, there isn't like well, you have to do a bunch of actions to make something ready first. So that's good for solar. We can make some money back from it. Something like maybe $7,000 a year if it were on the water plant, as an example. So it's not a huge amount compared to the investment. It adds up over time.
But we're not paying for the investment, though.
But we're not paying for the investment. So true. So it is immediately revenue, unlike others that are kind of looking at solar. Yeah, that's really important. And then, so this is kind of a key point. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, that was passed a few years ago, there was this great 30% incentive that was, municipalities were eligible for to, reduce the cost of solar. It has recently been under this administration, cut, and it will end, that 30% kickback, kind of like incentive will end, I think where did I write down? July 4th of this year. When I talked in the kind of late fall with the solar developer, he was like, you could still do it, and kind of laid out this pathway for us to potentially pursue it. And I was really pushing for us to have a timeline where because that's 30% is a lot of, it would really expand our scope. But I'm pretty skeptical that we can meet that timeline. And I learned that Phillipstown, used their funding for solar on the highway garage, the Phillipstown Highway Garage, and they didn't use the 30% because they were just nervous, I think, about whether it would go through or not. They didn't even try. They didn't pursue it. So, we can talk about it, but I do think that it would be challenging.
What was the concern? I mean, that building was finished
Yep.
almost 2
I
years ago
don't
now.
know. No, but the solar
Oh, the solar went on.
either it hasn't gone on yet or it just went on. They did the project maybe last fall. They did paperwork.
So that means you could expand the project beyond the 175,000, you'll get 30% back in a federal grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be whatever that math is, $200,000 worth of solar for the cost of
And
175.
that's specific to solar.
Yes,
That was, exploring water power.
yeah, it's specific to solar.
Okay.
And
Keep exploring that. but-
Yeah.
Okay.
and grant requirements, we have to use it 4 years of continuous use. And they have a cost per watt limit, so we have to make sure that, whatever bids we get aren't, fall within those.
But what does 4 years continuous use mean?
It means we can't take them down after 2 years.
Okay.
So we want to put it in a place where we're not going to do something to the building in a couple of years.
Okay.
I don't know how they check on it, but that's problems. Okay, so this is a little bit small on that, apologies, but, the trustees have it on paper and, so these are the buildings. I looked at, I think, all of our village-owned buildings, and this is my assessment of them. Village Hall, the roof needs repair first, and I don't think we should do something on a building where we have to wait for something else to happen. I just feel like we can find other options. The water plant is my preferred location. Apparently it's a newer roof. We use a ton of electricity out there. I talked with some solar developers and they suggested that it's viable. Some of it is also like, are the transmission lines correct from Central Hudson in order to receive the electricity, something like that. And they think that it's okay. And Matt seems supportive of, the idea. So I think that, and it's decently sized. So keep that one in mind. The wastewater plant, there are 2 buildings. There's the kind of newer green roof, that's metal, I think, and then like a flat
Oh, on the
roof
generator
on the generator building, and then there's the flat roof of the main building.
You mean the green roof?
It's the color of the roof is.
Oh, literally,
kind of green.
the green roof.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
generator
yeah,
building.
yeah.
Okay.
So the generator building and then the regular building. The plant needs an upgrade, so we should talk through whether that could affect the roof and, the lifetime of, or at least the next 4 years, but the lifetime of the panels. They can come down and up, but something to discuss. And again, high electricity bill and solar developers have said it looks good from their perspective.
Is there a way to not put it on the roof and just do a freestanding? thing?
Yeah, I asked about that. It's expensive to create the platforms, either as like a solar canopy or like in a field, and they said it's not worth it for the scale. The costs aren't there, and we have enough roofs that for just this $175,000 that we can put it on a roof. Because I asked about that. If we were doing a big field, then it would be worth it. The firehouse, apparently, I was told that it has a slanted roof, and so it's not workable for solar.
That surprises me. That roof is flat as flat.
Oh, what's planted about it?
Okay.
slanted a little so the water runs off.
So we could go back and look at, also don't know what the condition of the roof. do you know?
That's the newest roof in the village.
Oh.
That was
So-
done in 2017.
So, I mean, at the end of this, I'm gonna ask you all for our list of what we wanna put into our request for proposals. So we could put that one in and then just be told no again. That's possible. I just feel like I've heard from a couple developers that it wasn't a good site, but we could ask them to like look harder. Highway garage, the roof needs repair. Which is too bad because it's big. Mayor's Park Pavilion is a really little one. I just wrote it down. I also have no idea like if there are even electrical access issues and so,
When the project was done for the FEMA project, the electrical connections were upgraded down there.
Yeah.
And they were, and the water and the wastewater were separated. So those were the two utility things done. So I don't remember any more than that, but Bugsy may be able to tell you more about its capacity for power was upped.
yeah, okay.
Sorry, wasn't very articulate, but
So, my sense, especially if we went with the water, my sense is we could do maybe 2 buildings without the 30%. We could put an RFP out for potentially more than 2 in order to compare and contrast, or if we're told that one of them isn't possible. I think we could do that. And Michelle gave a good suggestion about how to do it, where it's kind of like it's one RFP, but with different options, alternatives, so that would work well. Let me just see what okay, so the next steps are decide if we want to do solar. And then if yes, select the buildings, and then there is a action item on the agenda to authorize the development of the RFP.
Going back to the first thing,
Yeah,
when you said we could do 2 buildings, are you saying that 175 would get us 2 installations on separate buildings so that?
I got early quotes, just like informal quotes without a site visit, so they're like quite initial from one solar developer. And with we could have done the 2 buildings at the sewer plant and the water plant for the 175 plus the 30K.
Mhm.
I didn't do the math, I think. So that's why I think we could do 2 with just our grant.
The power gets taken from the sun, it gets stored in a battery.
No
No
battery.
battery, it goes right online.
Yeah, or you, I don't know the logistics of whether it's like, but it's essentially used first by our operations, and then if there's anything extra, it goes to, into the grid, I believe.
So we don't have to have battery banks.
No.
That saves a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
And honestly, the water and the sewer plants use so much electricity that it's actually quite a small percentage because we use so much there.
well, the water and the wastewater plant seem the most obvious to me. We know that there's gonna need to be major work done at wastewater. But the engineer and Matt are still prioritizing and getting ready to put a proposal forward. It's hard to imagine that we're gonna have dramatic changes to that building in that time period. I mean, it's definitely needs to be in process, but it seems like that may be a reasonable transition building. I mean, in terms of area of roof, it has more than the other locations that you've talked about, except the firehouse. The firehouse, well, I don't know if the firehouse foundation can take additional weight. That's one of the concerns of the firehouse. I'm just looking at you because you've got fire company, your fire company, but that's one of the things we need to ask about.
You know
with
the
that
fire
building.
company's opinion on that building right now, so.
Yeah, it's not in the report.
It's not just opinion, it's just fact. The building's a mess.
But back to freestanding, if we're getting a grant for this, what, did the solar company give us a breakdown of what it would be to put it in freestanding or roof mounted?
No, I didn't get an estimate, but I think we should stretch the dollars as much to get as many panels as possible. And so if they're saying that it's $10 per panel for the ground mounted and $5 per panel for the roof mounted, we should do the roof, I mean, that was just the
Right,
logic that I
right,
understood, but I
yeah.
didn't get
I
the,
mean, the panels are the same, it's just how you
Yeah.
mount them.
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't have to worry about roof repairs and it could stay wherever it gets put.
But if
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have.
we don't have a lot of
locations where
land.
You could do that in any
Yeah.
meaningful way.
Yeah.
Not
They're
the,
not-
the garage?
What about a carport?
I asked about that as well. It's too expensive because of all that, because you need so much metal to create it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
one thing if you already have the carport or if it's really big or you have a
Right.
huge grant,
Mhm.
but they put it.
I mean, ideally you would do something like the municipal lot, right, where that's just lost space there when there aren't cars.
Or the highway.
But we've got to use with
Yeah.
the money we have. Well, the highway garage roof is a mess.
Not the roof, but a carport, but there's nothing to support the installation of a carport, can't do it.
Yeah, I just think that the money doesn't stretch that far and we do have a couple roofs that could sustain it. That's our most cost efficient way to go.
Between the water plant and the wastewater plant, the viability studies, it may not be as important if you could install in both
Both.
locations. But is one preferable to the other? I'm just thinking in terms of maybe tree coverage and openness to the sky. I don't know the
Yeah,
water plant, but the wastewater plant seems to have
very open.
very open.
Yeah, I got okay, like, I got no concerns
Hmm.
from both.
It's heavily wooded around the plant, on the perimeter of the
Yeah.
plant, but the building itself has full exposure.
So, I mean, so my suggestion would certainly be to do the water plant and both buildings of the wastewater plant and see what we get back. Do we want to do the fire company just to
I
do
think,
it?
I hesitate, given the condition of the, and you could get a price on it, but I'm worried about the weight on this foundation.
What about the dugouts at the ballpark, for example?
How they know it's done. But
Mayor's
that doesn't
Park-
mean that we couldn't enter into an agreement for
They all
them.
have
Yeah.
to be in one location, they have to be all.
No,
like,
but I think that
separate
there's like an
locations.
economy of scale. That's my guess, is that they want like a decent, even for them to think it's worthwhile to give us a bid.
They don't want them all over. the
Yeah,
place.
they want them all over the place.
I think go with the options that give you the greatest chance of
Yeah.
success and the
Yeah.
quickest chance of success.
Okay, so those,
So water is the primary, the two wastewater buildings as the alternates. To bid.
yeah, or,
I mean,
yeah,
bid all three of
however, yeah,
them, but
bid all-
in pieces.
yeah,
So we
exactly.
can compare.
Okay,
Does that sound?
that sound all right?
good?
Sounds good to me.
Great, okay, and then just the last thing is, you will see this come back also as a nice sort of contract modification, because we developed the contract for the, and for this building, for the retrofit of this building, so we're gonna have to ask them to change. You will see that, for the mayor to sign.
Okay, but
Cross
today
the fingers that they say yes.
you need an authorization today for the RFP.
Yes.
To draft the RFP. Would someone like to make a motion?
So I will make a motion, to authorize the preparation of a draft RFP for solar installations be issued by the village and funded by the NYSERDA grant.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye, thanks all.
Thanks for
Thank
letting me-
you, Laura.
Great, Laura, thank you.
Okay, we had no reports from local government partners, but we were happy to see town board member Ned Roush earlier. Trustee reports. Anything else? from- We'll hit tap grant. I'll hit tap grant, that's fine. And I think Andrew had a report to make.
Yeah, no, I had something, but I don't know whether it would be better to read it at another time, bearing in mind other discussions we're having, or if you think it's.
Why don't you, so you attended a public hearing on the Duchess Manor, which is, what was being envisioned as the visitor center related to the Pure Trail.
Yeah.
And wanted to give a report on what you observed,
Yeah.
and that, I think, no time's better than the present.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't necessarily have to read it, because we all have a copy of it, but maybe pull out highlights.
Yeah. So this is, I went to the Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting on 1/7/26. It was a continuation of the public hearing on Duchess Manor for the site redesign and restoration there. For those that may not be aware, HHFT is seeking to renovate the existing Duchess Manor building for various uses as offices, visitor center, adding a public restaurant, reconfiguring and expanding the existing parking lot to 181 spaces. That would be the trail's largest parking lot. Landscape areas to support the existing trail system, and there would be some form of shuttle active there. I'm not quite sure in what that actually constitutes, but in their application they said a shuttle. I think, as expressed by some of the speakers up there, many residents and neighbors close to Duchess Manor showed up. I counted the number of commenters with concerns versus those in support of the proposal. By my count, it was roughly 16 commenters with concerns versus 6 in support. And those concerns were largely about the size and impact of the proposal and whether it in fact connected to the larger fjord trail. HHFT's position is that their application will be independent of it, although in their own published materials they describe it as the perfect visitor center. The parking expansion that HHFT is proposing is greater than what is needed for the proposed use, and exactly how the shuttle bus proposal, shuttle service at Duchess Manor and service to the rest of the fjord trail that is mentioned in the FGS relate to each other is unclear. A planning board member commented that there was the highest number of comments, written and verbal, that they'd received for anything before their board.
They should come to Cold Spring.
Yeah, right. The concerns again were about tree clearing, increased traffic and congestion, threats to residential, hiker and vehicular safety it might bring, hikers who might walk on the shoulders of 9D to get to the trails rather than wait for a shuttle bus, environmental impacts on quality of life, use of pesticides and herbicides, groundwater contamination, loss of buffers, and the need for parking based on actual needs if the Duchess Manor project is really not connected to the fjord trail. They're saying for the purposes of this application, it has independent utility from the fjord trail.
And that was a legal determination, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's segmenting. Now we have 2 independent uses, so-called independent uses along one trail. With the Breakneck Connector was deemed to have independent utility, as was Duchess Manor.
Duchess Manor, yeah.
So that what that means is if the rest of the trail is not developed, those 2 pieces could function on their own. And so these folks, I think you're saying that commentators were concerned if it were to actually be an independent development, what would you do with the people who were there? I mean, how would they get trailheads, et cetera?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If it wasn't connected in any way to the fjord trail, then what they're reliant upon is the shuttle service, which is part of the larger fjord trail proposal, and it's unclear how those 2 interlink.
Well, I suppose it doesn't
It's
matter
called
if
the
it's.
Fjord Trail Visitor Center.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just for clarification, we know what's going on, but for clarification for the public, that's not in our village, but it abuts our village.
Well, it's in Dutchess County.
Yeah.
It, in between us and it is part of the town of Phillipstown,
Mm-hmm.
and then the town of Fishkill.
And that meeting is also available online through the Fishkill website.
Andrew, as you
I see
have,
you, Andrew.
have you, I have not, I mean, the public has 10 days to review the final environmental impact statement. Is there relationship between how the visitor center is treated in that review versus in the GEIS? Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure in terms of the FGEIS for phases 2 and 3, how it references the visitors trail, but within the Duchess Manor application, they're saying that it's a visitor center. But separately, on their website and other communications, they refer to it as the visitors center for the fjord trail. And even on their plans, it says the plan submitted to Duchess Manor claiming or asserting that it won't be connected. It says visitor center for the Fjord Trail, Hudson Islands Fjord Trail Visitor Center. But what struck me was that a lot of the concerns were similar to concerns that people in the village of Cold Spring have expressed in terms of impacts on traffic, quality of life, parking, safety, so forth. So I think there are common concerns. I think it's also important to note that the planning board is still in the process of considering the application. They haven't decided upon it yet. They haven't made a determination. But they are aware of clearly of concerns, and they received a letter from a White Osterman and hang on, can't forget.
A law firm.
Yeah, a law firm bringing their attention to concerns about segmentation. So a little later in the session, the HHFT attorney Helen Mouch requested that the board ignore many of the comments because, in her opinion, they refer to the Fjord Trail and they wanted to move right on to the next phase, the part 2 of the FEAF. The planning board said that they would like them to first respond to public comments and also update their site plans before they took anything else further into consideration. And then one board member asked if there was a shoreline trail on Duchess Manor sitting up the escarpment, would there be any connecting trails from Duchess Manor down to the Fjord Trail on the riverside? And Amy Casala said, yes, there would be steps and an ADA switchback going down to the trail, which again seems to undermine the idea that they're separate from one another. So the public hearing was held open for written comments until tomorrow, and then they'll resume the hearing. Let's see, February the 12th.
Got it. It is useful to hear now as the project proceeds, how other municipalities are receiving and discussing. So thank you for that. Maybe just on that same line of thinking, last week we met on Thursday for a business meeting. We had a couple of items that were time sensitive. And so we discussed them at that meeting. And one of them was our attorney's advice that we request a public hearing for the final generic environmental impact statement, the response to the draft. To make it clear, there is no requirement for a public hearing. The parks can accept the recommendations in the final environmental impact statement within 10 days. Puts you to the 17th. It was released on the 7th. It's a massive document, as Matt suggested. I would encourage everyone to read it, the public to read it. It's a lot of statements of no adverse impact on many of the items that were raised as concerns by the municipality and by residents in the village. So we are requesting, John drafted a letter. It has been sent to Nancy Stoner, who's the contact for Seeker at Parks for this project. We have requested a public hearing and public comment period, that they don't have to say yes. So we'll see where it goes. The John first is working on some cursory response. Like I said, we have till the 17th. There's not a lot that we can formulate in that period of time. But if anyone has anything in particular that they're concerned about, just maybe send it to John and copy your Marjorie. So it has been sent. It has not been acknowledged, but it's been sent. Another update from Mia and Laura is the TAP grant status. The other timely matter that we took up on January 8th. We have partnered with the town. The town would be the lead agency putting in a TAP grant request. It's a two-part process. On January 15th is a pre-application that secures your spot and opens resources from the Department of Transportation for the larger application, which is due in March. We are screaming into that deadline. It'll go tomorrow, come hell or high water. But we have had help from the county DPW, the planning commissioner, Barbara Barosa, has been fantastic. The county executive has met with us about it. We did approach Parks about the possibility of financial partnership. That request was rejected. HHFT, we are in discussions with HHFT, or I should say the supervisor is in conversation with HHFT about the possibility of them being a financial sponsor. This grant is a federal pass-through grant to the states. It is a reimbursement grant at 80%. So the sponsoring municipality needs to put out all of the money and then gets reimbursed at 80% and has to cover 20%. Pretty great way for the state to get work done on its roads, right? We're putting in applications for finishing the Fair Street sidewalk and installing a sidewalk on 9D, and in conversation with HHFT to see if they would be willing to be a financial sponsor to help the town with the output of funds. Since, you know, we're creating access to the state park, one on a village and county shared road and the other on the state highway.
And that's Fair Street, from where it ends by the park all the way up to.
Yes, and we own another small chunk of that road, and then it becomes county road to the end.
Yeah.
So the county and the village will have to submit letters of concurrence that we are part of and will participate in the process. But the town is the lead applicant.
And on 9D, it's from White Hill Place down
From White
to-
Hill to the Washburn lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
That's what I was
anything to
gonna
add? No. Okay.
thanks both.
Yeah, sure. Talk to us tomorrow. Okay. Another meeting I had in the last week on Friday, I met with Spec Dempsey. They're a planning firm that they're sort of stars in the field of designing walkable places. And they do work all across the country. Or right before the meeting, I sent you some links to their work in Lancaster, Massachusetts. Why are they important? They have been the Carney project at Marathon is gearing up to go. The Carneys are sensitive to the fact that previous development in the village has been, you know, when we think about the Butterfield site, it's been sort of put upon us and not driven from need first. And so Spec Dempsey, with their perspective on walkable places and integrating new neighborhoods into existing places, is going to work with the village in a public process to ask community, what is it that you want? Not just, here's what we're telling you we want. So the first step in that process is for Spec Dempsey to come in March and give an introduction to the concept of walkable communities. So as I know more about the planning, I'll keep you informed and the public informed. I'm really delighted to see this go from community direction out. Does it mean we'll get everything we all want on the Marathon site? No, but I'm really pleased that the community will be at the table from the beginning. So that's what I have on that. Anybody?
In March, what will that look like in terms of, is it a public hearing or it's just a
It's
public?
not a hearing because we can attend, but it's an open public meeting. Anyone can come.
There are plans in place right now for that area?
No,
Oh,
So-
so this is for, okay.
yeah, this is completely blank. So sorry, Tony, to bring you up to speed, in 2021, we adopted the zoning code, and that area was zoned as a planned unit development. A mixed use
No, I'm familiar with that. I just thought, I wasn't sure if he had presented something.
No, there's nothing been presented.
Oh, that's
That's,
good,
that's the
that's
whole
good.
point, is starting before they start,
Mhm.
to engage with the community on outcomes. I did send you links to their work in Lancaster, and I watched their talk on what is a walkable place, and then watched their public visioning process. And a lot of the things that we were trying to envision in words for the PUD is what they have made real on the ground in other places. And I think a big part of this addition in the village being successful is helping people visualize what it can be. 'Cause it's one thing to read code. I mean, like, we do it, we all do it. We don't love it, but we do it. It's another thing to see it, to see ideas put forward.
Is there a fee associated with that for us?
Not for us, but the developer is paying that.
Develop.
Because we don't run this. Like,
No,
I think
that's
that
right.
that part
That's-
is clear, is like important to clarify, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the developer is hiring him and is in charge of the process, and we are attending and interested parties, but like, it's not our.
Right, we're not running
It's
the
not our,
process.
it's not our process to
Good
run.
way to start, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so more as we know it. Okay, we're almost there. Yeah, now we have board business. Yes. Thursday, well, hopefully Thursday. Hopefully the next time. Okay, the first item is our add-on. It's the recommendation from Superintendent Krug. So as a reminder, this is the new position that will be shared. It's not a new position. It's filling the position that is shared between water and wastewater and highway for a laborer. We specifically sought a person with a mechanical skill. We found one. A background check was conducted as necessary, driving record, et cetera. And Superintendent Krug and Crew Chief Downey recommend as approved in the conditional hire on January 8th, 2026, to hire Christopher Bracero to fill the open position. Shared position between the budgets, between water and wastewater and facilities at a rate of $25 an hour for starting pay. Discussion.
What is conditional?
So in order to be able to do driving record check and background check, the board needs to make a conditional offer first, so that person is in the pipeline and those checks can be authorized. So that was done in the last meeting. On Thursday, we approved the conditional offer. Since Thursday, that was the other timely item on that agenda. Since Thursday, all those checks have been done and the return satisfactory. And so now we are making the formal hire.
There's a probationary period.
Probationary period of 6 months.
Okay,
Yep.
great. We need a motion for that?
Yes, we do. Would you like to make it?
Yeah, make a motion that we approve the hiring of Christopher Vaquero to fill the open position of interdepartmental laborer
At a rate of,
at the rate of $25 an hour starting pay.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Very much. Okay, well, this is another, there's no small topic on this agenda. The next is just the follow-up, the legal follow-up for the water emergency. The board has to approve me lifting the superintendent's recommendation that we lift the system-wide water emergency that was enacted on September 22nd per Village Code Chapter 130. As I said, we hit the numbers above the rate right before Christmas, but this is the first we've been in session to actually make the order, to make the order to rescind. Discussion?
That's effective immediately as soon as we vote on it.
Effective immediately, yep.
I need to make a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion to rescind the stage 1 water emergency, originally enacted on September 22nd, 25.
Second.
Favor? Aye, and I want to emphasize that we're okay now, but we never know we don't know what's going to happen. Thankfully, we've so far had a good amount of snow, and that produces runoff that keeps the reservoir high, but We need to think about water as a precious resource that we all share and be conservative in our use.
Maybe a silly question, but can we make the reservoir bigger?
I actually asked
We
about
did ask
that.
about that.
No, I asked about dredging it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Mark, our engineer for the dam, gave me a long and very convincing answer if that's a bad idea, but I don't remember the details of it.
yeah.
Because, yeah.
For one thing, it'd be very hard to get permits from the DEC to have a drinking water source.
Yeah.
It probably has silted in some over time. Thanks, Andrew, for making it even more complicated. Okay. Flood resiliency study. So Laura's the lead on this one as well. Laura doesn't sleep anymore.
Alright, so, the opposite of drought is flood. And, Maybe Cold Spring, so following the big 2023 flood, I think it like brought up this new question of, rainfall flooding in Cold Spring, and where is it coming from? How do we address it? What are kind of like what's like the system of, what's kind of the system that we're operating in, and where are the levers? And so with that, the village authorized a small contract with Fuss and O'Neill, which is a environmental engineering and design firm that does a lot of climate resiliency work, including on flooding, to do an initial investigation with us. So this is the memo that summarizes that initial investigation. And it part of their work was we trudged, Kathleen and I and Mayor Wimward, through the Nelsonville Woods on a very hot day, summer of 24, I think, and did lots of observations. You can see some of the notes in the maps from that. And so I mean, I find it a really good read, and it like summarizes a lot of what we've been talking about in a succinct, useful way, and then it lays out a variety of optional recommendations at the end. And the action for the board is just to accept it. We'll put it on the website, and then the next agenda item, we'll talk about some of the things that we can do next.
Are you making a motion to enter this document into the public record?
I make a motion to enter this document into the public record.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And like glad to, I think it's already getting late. But glad to talk more with anyone if you have further questions.
This did come to us in June. It needed to be circulated among stakeholders. Haldane reviewed it, the town reviewed it, Nelsonville reviewed it. We had all seen it previously. It went out to them. And now we're just coming back to officially accept it with modifications that were requested.
Yep. Great. Okay. So next item is that we also worked with Fuss and O'Neill the summer of 24 to write a grant to the state, Hudson River Estuary Program, to fund some of this planning work. And what's important is that the grant wasn't a perfect fit, so we had to kind of fit what we wanted into the grant. And the grant was to provide for a climate vulnerability and adaptation study. So that's what we see here, is that we use that framing toward flooding. We got the grant. It took a very long time to hear about the grant, and then it's taken a continued long time to get the contract set up. I think we're still, Marjorie, waiting for the contract. But
Just for fun.
okay, yeah, but it's a 70, sorry, lost, 75, 75.
We put 5
Yeah,
forward as the
yeah.
match.
A $75,000 grant. So what you have here is Fuss and O'Neill's proposal of which is basically a translation of what we said in the grant application. It is to do those 2 steps, to do a vulnerability study using a lot of the work that Han has already done, and some field work, and then do an adaptation plan that lays out different alternatives for us to address the sources of flooding that they identify. There's a community engagement section in it that's actually a walk shop instead of a workshop, where public would actually go for a walk in the Nelsonville Woods and see the issues. I think we could do other things, if there's a lot of interest in this, we could always host something in addition to what they're able to do, to pull up maps and ask for feedback. Because I think that people want to know about this, and they have experiences that they want to share. And I think that this is like a venue for being able to do that and put it into the report. But they have emphasized to us the limits of what this small grant will get us. And the last piece that I'll just say on that, because it is important constraints, it is not going to get us the like design engineered solution that then we can submit for a construction grant. So we would still have to do another kind of last step, but this is an important piece toward being able to apply for
It gets us closer.
implementation.
What we found in every area where we've done grant writing and continue to do it, because that's how the system works, is that municipalities beg to pull federal and state monies down, is that, and you don't get to the big meaty grants for big work until you've prepared multiple small studies. So, this isn't unusual that that we're starting small. It's just frustrating because it takes a long time. I did attend the PACE Land Use Institute training on building resiliency into codes in spring. We've actually had a chance to talk about it, but out of it came lots of great ideas for how to address exactly what we're dealing with in Cold Spring and how other municipalities have dealt with it. There were a lot of great examples from Hastings. Han also works at Hastings. There are things we can do in our code now to help us be ready for the big grant. And this is one of the baseline studies that we're going to need anyway. So it's small, but it's mighty in that it positions us. So what's the timeline looking like?
Yeah, so I'm not asking for authorization for the mayor to sign the contract yet, because we want to wait for the contract with the state grant to be executed, just to be sure. So once that happens, then I'll come back and ask for that vote on this proposal. I just wanted to kind of let you all know about it first. Then the work will begin, and the schedule is basically for it to happen over the course of this year, and then to wrap up, by the end of the year. So it's like a 1-year term.
It's gonna be a very busy year.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks for the work on that. I read the report. I found it fascinating.
Wasn't it? Yeah, I thought it was good.
Understanding the relationship
Yes.
between rainfall and topography and
Yeah.
how it might affect your house if the water flows
Yeah.
towards it.
It's a
Yeah.
great document
Yeah.
for everyone to read.
And also really necessary, right?
Mhm.
Because there's only going to be more water in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing, is that they will also incorporate climate projections. So that way we can plan for future rainfall and not today's
Okay.
rainfall, which is important.
Okay.
Building resiliency.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
so there's no action we need to
No.
take, right?
Not yet.
Laura, amazing. Yeah, like beyond amazing. Okay. Next is a bunch of items involving the fire company. Thank you for sitting and waiting through. The first is an authorization for me to sign the memorandum of agreement with the Cold Spring Fire Company in the amount of $147,419 paid in 2 equal installments. This is for our fire protection service for the village. The fire company is a sort of a hybrid. It's a village department and it is its own entity. So we contract with the entity for fire service for the village. So I'm looking for an authorization to sign. Any discussion?
I've got a question. How are the percentages determined of that share?
You mean us, Nelsonville and
The
Phillipstown?
52, 29, 18 breakdown?
Population.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of agreement with Cold Spring Fire Company #1 for year 2026, the amount of $147,419 in 2 installments.
Second.
I want to clarify,
Second and a half.
second and a half, clarify before we vote. Andrew, it's a small piece of Phillipstown that is within that district. So obviously if it were all of Phillipstown, it'd be a much bigger percentage, but the Cold Spring Fire Company's district has a piece of Phillipstown. Right. That's the primary call
The
for.
village line to the Dutchess County line,
Mm-hmm.
the village line to halfway across the Indian Brook Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and then go up 301,
Mm-hmm.
make the turn onto Lane Gate Road,
Mm-hmm.
half of Lane Gate Road
Mm-hmm.
the west side of Langate Road going up
To
to
here.
Circle Drive.
Okay,
From Circle Drive on to 9 is, northbound.
okay.
The luckiest, we got the 90 corridor. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, you see sort of the other side of this, we also contract with Phillipstown and Nelsonville for fire protection services in those areas Lillian just described. We have the agreement between us and Phillipstown. We have already signed with Nelsonville. The Phillipstown share is 73,709.50.
60,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line. Pardon me, correction. $68,450. Thank you, clerk. Discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a fire protection services agreement for year 2026 with the town board of the town of Phillipstown and the Cold Spring Fire Company #1 in the amount of $68,450.
Second. In favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, last, LoSAP is the retirement programs, the service award program for our volunteer firefighters. We contract with LoSAP Penflex for the management of LoSAP every year. So this is a continuation of our current contract. Marjorie, anything else in particular to comment on about that? Standard
It's a
distribution.
defined benefit program based on length of service for the members of the fire company. It's a benefit because it's a volunteer fire company and this is our contribution. Penflex they're an actuarial firm that manages the length of service award program. And the fire company gives us a roster of the eligible firefighters, and our actual cost is based on the roster of how many firefighters will be receiving the benefit. So this isn't an invoice at this point. It is an agreement. Once the roster is collected and approved, then the board makes another vote to supply this information to Penflex so they can use it for their actuarial services and the payments that will eventually be made toward the retired firefighters.
And so the total cost to the village is 6,000.
There's an estimated standard distribution fees, which is the base fee, the per participant fee of $24 each, which isn't determined until the roster is received. That's being developed right now. And then the materials that are used and sent out to the firefighters. And then we are also required, because of our auditing for a municipality, we sign up for the GASB 73 package for $1,200, and that's for our auditors.
So the top is estimated, and the cost we know to be fixed are $650 and $1,200. And we're right now authorizing me to sign this agreement for actuarial services. Would someone like to say so moved? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I didn't ask for discussion. Was there discussion I've missed? No. Okay. Last, related to the fire company, is the New York State Volunteer Firefighter Cancer Benefit Program. It's an agreement that we have already with Hartford Life and Accident Insurance Company. In the past, we have opted for the enhanced plan, which covers additional, strange to say, but additional forms of cancer. Firefighters are exposed to all sorts of chemicals in burning buildings, and this is meant to address potential cancers, providing coverage related to. The cost is $3,754.20. Discussion. No. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, although I think if it's written out, someone else should do it if they have it.
I make a motion to authorize.
Should you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
on
is.
the, yeah. I can give it a shot. Okay,
Yeah.
I make a motion, to adopt, thank you, to authorize the mayor to sign the renewed agreement with Hartford Life and Accident Insurance for the New York State Volunteer Firefighter Cancer Benefit Program and the option to enhance plan amount of $3,754.20.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have one recusal, as Pepys's family would be a beneficiary were it called upon. Thank you, and thank you for the reminder. Okay. Next discussion, and this is a discussion, is relating to the Cannabis Control Board's notice to us. I just want to go over in a very concise as I possibly can at this hour, what the village's role is in cannabis. So in 2021, 2020, is that right? 2020, the 2020, 2021. I think it's 2020. There was a ballot initiative across New York State. The state determined that it would legalize cannabis, and it gave one opportunity for municipalities across the state to opt out. It was an automatic legalization across the state, but communities had one opportunity to opt out. There were two questions before the voters. The first was, do you want to have cannabis dispensaries in your municipality? And the second was, do you want to allow on-site consumption in your communities? The village voters said yes to dispensary, no to consumption. So that is a decision made by the voters of the village, and that's the law that we have to follow. So we do not yet have a dispensary. There is one that has been noticed on Main Street up near the firehouse. It has had fits and starts in its own planning, so has not gone further than what we know of the notice. There are applications before the code enforcement officer. This is a second application. Now, when originally adopted, the guidelines, the legal structure around cannabis had very large linear, actually it's radial limitations for how close dispensaries could be placed to each other, how close they could be placed to places of worship. I get it in front of me, schools, and there's one other category.
Other dispensaries.
Other dispensaries, schools, and churches.
You know what is that what the footage?
It's footage, but it's radial, so it's X number of feet in all directions. So when we were made aware of the first dispensary application, which is now a couple of years ago, the original linear distances applied, and they were much longer. So we thought that we assumed that this one on Main Street would then knock out a number of other locations because it was central and
It's
close
right
to.
across the street from the church.
It's the one where there is currently an application?
Yeah.
The one that was presented initially is on Main Street, roughly across from the firehouse. It's that space that has been a pop-up in Pierre, I think it's Pierre's building. I don't remember the number. So that one is in process, but hasn't yet opened. The rules changed mid-game, and the radial distance between those sensitive sites, churches, schools, and dispensaries, was reduced to what is before us now, which is the following: minimum distance of 2,000 feet between adult use cannabis retail dispensaries in municipalities with a population of less than 20,000. A minimum straight line measurement of 200 feet between any cannabis dispensary and building exclusively used as a house of worship. So if there's a community center or services provided, that doesn't count as a house of worship. A minimum straight line measurement of 500 feet between any cannabis dispensary and a building exclusively used as a school.
What about the nest? Does that count?
Yes. So we asked Bugsy to go out. Well, first of all, I should say this notification was received from New York State in December. There was so much going on in December. It was right before Christmas. We needed to understand the boundaries of what we were dealing with. So Marjorie requested an additional 30 days. So we're closing in on the 60-day from the date of the advisory, which was, we received it on December 1st. So February 1st is what we're coming to as an application. What our role here as a village board is not to approve the use. That's New York State. Under the cannabis laws, dispensaries are treated just like liquor stores and other retail uses. If they are new construction or it's a change of use, they go through a site plan review. If they're not changing the use, there's no planning board approval required. Our role as trustees is only to comment on the notification of the license request and whether we have any concerns. Now, comma, and we are bound to work within the boundary, the linear boundaries established by the state cannabis Office of Cannabis Management. There is currently a case at the state level challenging the definitions related to minimum distance. It will not, however, be decided until after our comment period. The question before the courts is it a measurement from property line to property line or door to door? They're challenging the definition. Until that's decided, we have to work from what's on the books. So the question to the board is, the application is for 10 Julia Lane, Suite 102 and 103. That is the building that was the Leahy Pavilion. It's where the post office is.
And the Friendship Center.
And the Friendship Center. Thank you from the audience. We're all pretty fried. So we asked Roadways and Facilities to do some measurements for us. And we have those.
This still has to go to the planning board, correct?
No, does not go to the planning board unless it's change of use.
They
Now,
don't have one there now.
this is the code enforcement officer will need to determine if it is a change of use. We have an unusual zoning circumstance on the Butterfield site because the zoning was tied to the site plan when that zone was established. So there were allowable percentages of shifts in the building from what was presented as the site plan. If the buildings moved more than 5%, it was considered non-compliant. What's the difference? The building's built then, right? If there were changes of use beyond what was approved. It is zoned multi-use. This building has office uses in it. There are two condominium structures to the east of this building. There is a multi-use building roughly to the south, which has a coffee shop, a hair salon, and a dance studio and nail salon, and a dance studio and therapy practice. And upstairs there are apartments. The lower building is occupied entirely by New York Presbyterian. So let me dig through my papers and find the distances that Bugsy came up with.
This is door to door or property line, property line.
So the definition under the law is, if we're talking particularly about the nest, a minimum straight line measurement of 500 feet between any cannabis dispensary and a building exclusively used as a school. So Bugsy gave us two measurements. From the northwest corner of the proposed dispensary to the property line of the nest is 212 feet. So about half of what the guidance is. The distance from the front door of the dispensary, down sidewalks, across crosswalks, across the parking lot, to the edge of the woods, directly through the woods to the nest store is 616 feet, give or take a few feet. If it's measured along the public ways, it's slightly longer. So,
Remind us what the minimum distance.
500 feet. So property line is 212. Door to door is 616. I throw this out to the board. There is no action that we have to take, but I ask you, would you like to make comment about the location of this dispensary in relation to these sensitive sites? And I don't know, I asked Matt to stay in case he had any input as officer in charge.
And the comment would be, would go to the office
It
of.
would go to the Office of Cannabis Management.
If it fits into what the laws are, then I think we should just go along with it, otherwise we're gonna end up in litigation again. So I think we just use the existing laws for it. That's my recommendation.
And if it were to, if the developer were to pursue this at the site, the licensee were to pursue it at the site, the code enforcement officer would determine whether or not it is a change of use. Let me check, are you able to check the, do you have internet right now, just to double check? The
zoning map?
MU3, I think it's 3, the zoning map, but the site plan, see if the zoning is by building or site.
Oh, like the zoning code?
On the map itself, there is a footnote that ties it to the Butterfield site plan. And you should be able to click through to the site plan. Sorry, I did not have time to do this today, and it is not because I take it lightly, it's because we've been up to our eyeballs trying to get the grant out.
This is what you're looking for?
So there should be footnotes to that.
We did look at the existing map and it said just mixed use. It didn't itemize
So do the
each
table, I'm
building.
sorry, it's not the map, it's the use table.
It's gonna drag more traffic in there as well.
There you,
Dimensional?
if you go within the zoning code itself, into chapter 134 itself. I know everybody's tired, I'm sorry that this isn't done ahead of time. And now search, do use table, I think it's 6A, and it should take you to it, to where the footnotes are. Table 6A, table of permitted uses, yep. 130, 21, 134. Here. 134-130.
I know. Is there anything else that we could discuss?
Not permit this business to open where it is that correct?
It's not our,
Determine, we're gonna see
not
what
our
your
decision.
decision, site plan,
Nothing, just, you know, for the record, that the village has no control over whether this business goes into that location or not, right?
That's my understanding. We have to comply with state law
That's
and,
exactly, that's
and
exactly what
code.
I'm getting at. I'm just
Yeah.
addressing one of the letters that
Mhm.
we've received. So yeah, the village can't really do much as far as, reconsidering, permitting the dispensary in this specific location. So if that's where they want to put it. As long as the state says it's okay, that's where they can put it.
Well, also as long as it complies with zoning and site plan
Correct.
and change of use.
Yes, so they as a business have to submit all that information to the state before they're even permitted to open up their shop in that location. The state has to have all that information in front of them.
Is the state measuring distances?
I was curious about that too.
Yeah,
Like, what do they base it on?
who's gonna
I
provide
mean,
that?
any business is gonna be like,
Right,
sure,
it's
Yeah,
very
I'm
vague.
1,000 feet away.
That information is very vague.
well, I get, and like, if we. Is it upon the municipalities to raise when we think that it's in violation of the limit, or
The
is that
process-
just part of the
just
application
to-
process that they'll?
The process is
review
the applicant comes, we were given a notice from the Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, which is a state
Right.
office, and they, an applicant who wants to have a cannabis dispensary goes to the state and they have to apply. Once they apply, the Office of Cannabis Management sends us a notification that this has been made. The applicant came to us on December 1st. The municipality has 30 days to respond to that application or notification. It's not really an application, it's a notification. So when we received it was December 1st. It was right before the holidays and we requested a 30-day extension. So I wrote to the state, we put in a 30-day extension and we received the 30-day extension. So we have this period to discuss if there is any response. So knowing we have to follow the law, what we did is look at the law and we looked at the distances from another dispensary, and there has been a previous permit put in for 137 Main Street. There was distances between churches and distances between schools. And we sent the High Roadways and Facilities crew chief out to measure these distance to see if the location was in compliance with the law, which is really all we have the power to do, to make, to base our comments on, for the board to base their comments on. So that's what Robert Downey Jr.'s measurements are based on, the application.
I would say in terms of in terms of a concern, I think maybe what you were both raising is that it should be independently verified in some way. It's not just a random measurement by someone, that there needs to be some form of certification of the measurement.
Right, and the business that is proposing to open in this location has to meet specific criteria for the state. And it says that they have to provide all that information to the state before they're able to open this establishment wherever they choose to be.
And significant security concerns in terms of
See,
camera surveillance, entrance,
oh
exit.
yeah, absolutely. All of that. And that also would go along with specific village codes. We don't really have too many specific village codes that would apply to a business like this, other than New York State liquor laws, which are similar.
Yeah.
As far as, hours of operation, and stuff like that. So they do have to provide a security plan to the state. We would also be requesting that security plan. We have done it prior to this isn't my thing. but it's when business applies for a permit to operate a business in the village, we ask them for their a copy of their security plan. So we know what kind of security measures they have in place. And then the most recent one that I can think of was the 24-hour gym. They're also, we ask them to fill out a business contact form. So that way we have their contact information as far as, any alarms. I don't know if it's that area or that building, but we do answer a lot of alarm calls in that area, which are false alarms. Oh,
sure.
One
the
each.
village could ask for a copy of that site plan.
We've got the site plan.
We're allowed to adopt local laws regulating the hours of operation and stuff like that, as long as they're not unreasonable. As far as the location, I know there was some concerns about the location where it is. If it's in compliance with the state guidelines, there's really nothing we can do about it. But from my standpoint, as far as, traffic, parking, and security measures, it's really not a bad location in the village for something like that. It's outside of the Main Street corridor, which we have, obviously, we've had a lot of, pedestrian traffic. We have a lot of families that, visit the village with small children. There's definitely not sufficient parking on Main Street for a business like this. And, as far as, this isn't a place, it's not a lounge. You're not gonna be able to hang out there. This is something where it's more like a grab and go. We're gonna be dealing with parking issues. Over there, we're not really gonna have to deal with too many parking issues. It's a grab and go spot. Different parking issues. They're gonna go there, they're gonna get what they gotta get, and then they're gonna leave. That area is also, not only covered by the Cold Spring Police Department, but we do have periodic patrols by state police and the sheriff's office in that area. So as
That's
far
the
as
state road.
right, because it's a state road. So as far as the security concerns, they're still there, but they're a little bit less than it would be if it was right here on Main Street in front of us.
Are the suites that are under consideration facing Route 9D, or
No,
was
they're
under the
interior.
impression that
I'm not sure of,
They're interior between,
so it's on the other side.
I want to focus in on zoning. I'm sorry that these are double-sided. I didn't mean it to be doing it quickly. So the small history lesson here is that the B4 medical and healthcare facility and mixed use is the zoning. You have a use table. It's the brown B4. You go down. If you go down the column, it shows you what is allowable in that district as of right or by permit, special use permit, or
It's not allowed from, according to this.
well, hang on. So then you're I'm sorry, I'm exhausted and I'm struggling a little bit. Just give me a minute. So that's a sort of a list version of what's allowed there. When the zoning code was updated in 2021, because this zone was tied to the Butterfield site plan, which I thought I printed, maybe I didn't. I printed the notes on it. We didn't touch it. There were no updates on it because it was so complicated and so very much tied to that site plan. So there are, I may have to have you pull one more part. If you pull up Butterfield within the zoning code, if you search,
Do we need
Butterfield.
an answer on this right away, or?
Yes, we
table
do,
this?
because we
Okay,
have
I'm sorry.
it's due on February 1st. This will just take, I'm sorry, it's gonna take a couple more minutes, but we have to get through it. If you look up
Mhm.
Butterfield, it'll show the site plan. So the footnotes on the site plan that relate to this parcel, this district, are as follows.
Okay. There you go.
Is that question?
So is there, this is building, it is in building 3. What does it tell us about building 3 on this side?
No.
Lot 3? No.
Building 3 shall be approximately,
That's the size.
shall be senior citizen housing.
So in the footnotes here,
7, right?
B. Oh, did I double set it? Let's look at the map at the same time.
I think it's
Okay.
that footnote number 7, right?
B4. Business and professional offices in the B4 district. Provided that the total square footage of businesses and professional office space in any one building shall not exceed 17,500 square feet, and the total amount of square footage of businesses and professional office space in the district shall not exceed 32,500 square feet. So that was meant to prevent big box at the site. And the next footnote that relates is mixed uses in the B4 district consisting of 2 or more permitted uses. And here, what?
I just read that it says, dispensary.
Okay, so let's go through them. Let's,
Or dispensaries shall not be considered community space.
community space went toward the calculation of
Okay.
lot coverage. So it's not prohibiting it.
Yep.
Let me read it into the record since you're raising it.
Mhm.
The next footnote is coffee shop or luncheonette in the B4 district with counter service and customer seating for a maximum of 15 customers and not exceeding 750 square feet, only permitted if in connection with a mixed-use development. The next item, which Tweeps is just referring to, senior citizen housing in the B4 district of up to 55 units with the following exceptions. Every unit shall be occupied by at least one person who is at least 55 years of age. That doesn't sound so old anymore. And there shall be no residents under the age of 18. Up to 2 bedrooms may be provided per unit with occupancy limited to no more than 2 persons per unit. Compliance with age restrictions for senior housing in the B4 zoning district shall be a condition of site plan approval. The community space for the use of residents, meaning within the 2 big buildings, the blue and the green building intended for seniors, community space for the use of residents shall be 10% of the total gross floor area of the residential buildings. Such community space may include lounges, workshops, game rooms, dining hall, and other facilities designed for senior citizens. Again, that's within buildings, whatever the numbers are, 4 and 5. 3, 4, and 5. Spaces for medical facilities or dispensaries shall not be considered community space, meaning count toward the community space in the big buildings. Community space shall be spaces for medical facility, community space shall not be in the basement unless there be ground level ingress or egress to such space. The village board shall determine the apportioning of this community space between or among the buildings and may modify the community space ratio to conform to the requirements of the state and or federal agencies providing funds for the construction and or acquisition of senior citizen housing and or site. When practical, out-of-door facilities, including landscaping, sitting areas, and space for exercise and games shall be provided. Multi-family dwellings in the B3 are limited to dwellings that are within a senior citizen housing development pursuant to 134-15. My point is, in reading all of this into the record, is that the zoning for this is mixed use. It allows mixed use purposes, including bank, bar, bed and breakfast. Hang on a second. Gotta make sure I'm reading the right column.
Cool.
Yep, I gotta make sure I'm reading the right column. SP is permitted and SP is special. Okay, so those permitted commercial uses are bank, business or professional office, that's the one footnote I just did. Health-related facility, hospital or sanatorium, and mixed use. And the mixed use note says nothing more than mixed use. And
But-
so, go ahead.
But of two or more permitted uses in the district. So it doesn't mean of anything. It means only of the ones that are permitted.
Only of the ones that are permitted.
Yeah. So that's important, right?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't say that it permits a shop.
On the next page, it also goes on, I think it's a continuation, right? Nursing home, personal service shop.
Oh, sorry, but, yeah, nursing home, thank you, Andrew. Personal service shop,
Oh, no, yeah, that's.
restaurant,
Oh,
retail business,
Okay,
senior citizen
so it
housing.
does.
Right. So no. So retail business is allowable. With a, let's make sure there's not a footnote on retail business,
Number
which
six.
is 0.6. Retail stores at street level, provided that the total square footage of retail space in the district does not exceed 13,000 square feet, and that no single building in the B4 shall have more than 7,000 square feet of retail space. And that was, again, getting at the avoidance of big box, so that it was intended to be small retail.
And this is two addresses, but it's smaller than that, I assume.
Smaller than some.
Smaller, 7,000 square feet, yeah. So it is an allowable use. And we have a law to follow.
Kathleen, when you had stepped out, we were talking about the measurement and how that's verified,
The what?
the measurement.
Measurement.
Of the distances, because as I understand it right now, on one measurement, it would be disqualified, but on the other, it would qualify. Is that correct?
Right, there is no discrepancy.
Ah.
Well, there is discrepancy currently. A minimum straight line measurement of 500 feet between any cannabis dispensary and a building exclusively used as a school.
Hmm.
What is not clear is whether that is door to door or
To that.
lot line to lot line.
Mhm.
And as I said, that is under, that's a court discussion right now.
Is it possible for us to comment to say that, you know, if the calculation is unclear, but there's
That is
No.
entirely appropriate for us to say. That, to just recognize what is around, what uses are around it,
Yeah.
that we consider meeting the qualifications of proximity protected location.
Yeah.
And identify our comment as, you know,
Yeah, the
on
state
borderline
needs
because
to-
of the decision being made.
If you go with it and then they decide that they're gonna change it, that it's not from door to door, it's from property line to property line. Or door of establishment to the property line of a school, and it's already in, then what do you do?
Exactly. I mean, I don't see this, it has been glacial in pace, the cannabis box of cannabis management. I don't see this proceeding anytime quickly. But we are within a time frame to make a comment. The question is whether the board wants to make a comment or not pertaining to potentially proximity protected locations. Under zoning, this is a retail use. It is an allowable use on the site. And that needs to be in the forefront of your minds too. This is not a disallowed use on the site. So,
It's up to the state to say yea or nay.
what?
It's up to the state to say.
That's
yea
exactly
or
right.
nay.
Our capacity is only comment. So does the board want to make a comment relating to potentially proximity protected location?
I'm in favor of doing it to make sure that they're notified that there is a location close by and that it's their responsibility to confirm that before they issue the permit, that this complies.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
agree with that.
perfect. So how about, no, we're not gonna ask you to draft anything else. Are you willing to
Those
draft
words.
language? Okay.
Good on.
And set it around. send it around for us to look at. I think that is what we can do within the boundaries of the law.
I mean, I think we're bound to comply with state.
Yeah, we are bound
zoning
to follow
code.
the state law.
But also I think it's good to be mindful of some of the sensitivities that have been raised by.
Yes, we did receive one public comment. It was in your packet. I believe the member of the public is with us. Would the board be amenable to hearing comment from this person who has been waiting while we painfully went through the zoning code?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Totoro, would you like to make a comment?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for going through all of these details. It's very helpful to hear, and I understand, and of course, we'll go with whatever the decision is. I do want to highlight that I'm not simply a dance studio. I'm really a psychotherapeutic office that uses the creative arts therapies as a form of treatment. With that said, my specialty is early childhood, infancy, parent-child relationships, and I work through the whole lifespan, but I deal a lot with trauma. And I work a lot with children on the spectrum of autism, a lot of children with dysregulation issues. And I know the parking is not something that you can deal with because it's a zoning issue, but that parking lot is very tight already. I am working with kids and families and parents that are very stressed, and it's really hard to park already. Many of them are now parking up at the post office, so they're walking through that area, which is a lane, a parking lot, and a road. It's can get pretty precarious there, but I'm also concerned about the message of when I work with people with addictions and again, a lot of trauma. And so I'm concerned about that use being, so I'm not a school per se, although my doctorate is in education. I work a lot with schools and teachers and children, and so that's my concern.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So,
Okay.
the deputy mayor is going to be drafting comments, and she has taken notes of your particular concerns. And we will also get a measurement from the location to the same measurement that we've done for the nest, we can do for your location.
Can I say one thing too?
Mhm.
Susie, I understand your concerns and the sensitivities. If it's any help, in my experience of watching traffic in and out of dispensaries, and I've gone to them for CBD mostly, they're pretty much in and out pretty quickly. It's not like people just want to go pick up what they're going to pick up and then move on. I don't see that. I haven't seen any sort of loitering, or it's pretty much like, going to Yanitelli's. People park, they go in, they get a bottle of wine, and they go on their way. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, the parking issue,
But
that doesn't, it's not something that we can.
no, it's already,
Private parking.
Yeah,
it's a private site. The parking was calculated, the parking need was calculated during the site plan review by the planning board. It is what it is. It
Yeah.
approved the planning with all of these approved the parking with all of these allowable uses on the space. Like this,
Yeah,
with all due respect, because I know your work and have nothing but wonderful things to say about Dancing Dialogue. I actually think that this is a better location than Main Street, in terms of traffic movement.
well,
I mean, we don't have that choice. I'm just pointing out that in terms of traffic flow, it's probably a better location if that one were to go, if this one were to go forward. We have no control over which one gets done faster. We have no control.
Also, they can both happen.
They can
right?
both happen.
The distances were reduced, and so they can both, it's not one or the other.
Right, and it's the state law that defines that. Yeah. Have we kicked this dead horse sufficiently?
Yes.
Okay.
Was there anything about the measurement too? Did we want to get any
Yes.
clarification on how, in terms of who submits it and how it's
well,
verified?
it sounds like it's the applicant submits it,
Yes.
but I think the better question for us is like, what's the verification process
Yeah.
of what the applicant is saying, and is there like, can we get?
Does the state verify?
Right.
What we
Like, how does
state verifies it? Way is,
Say that again?
do you think the state verifies it and puts it on a map?
Could we ask for them to respond to us
Yeah.
so that we know that it's been verified? Okay. Lost track of where we are in the agenda. You feel like you have what you need? You send a draft and people can comment. Okay. Oh, I'll give it to you. Okay. The next item is approval of bills. Who has the batch number?
I'm sorry, are we,
What we
is
agreed.
there an action item to?
We don't need to, we can vote if you would, that would be
Is
helpful.
there a response to the state that's being?
Tweets is drafting a response to the state incorporating what was discussed in our discussion. Okay. Now approval of bills.
Need a motion?
Yes, I do.
Um,
Someone who,
I make a motion to approve bill batch number 8286 in the amount of $187,000, $187,721.44.
second, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. No minutes to approve this time. Hey, there's still two more things, but hopefully they'll be quick. The next is the continuation of the public hearing that we opened at the beginning of the meeting on chapter 125, Village Justice Court. Would any members of the public care to make comments? Excellent. I make a motion to close the public comment period. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any further board discussion? Great. Someone like to make a motion regarding resolution? Do we have to read it? I can read that.
Someone else, I just wanted to see.
You can, do we have to read this into the record? The resolution, it's short.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, resolution number 1/2026, adopting local law 1 of 2026, adding chapter 125, establishing the position of associate acting justice and establishing the residency requirements for the village justice, associate acting village justice, and court clerk for the village of Cold Spring. Following resolution was offered by trustee Bosey for adoption and seconded by trustee Woods. Whereas the resolution was duly adopted by the village board of the village of Cold Spring on December 17, 2025, scheduling a public hearing to be held by the village board on January 14, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the village of Cold Spring Village Hall to hear all interested persons on proposed local law adding chapter 125 of the village code, which establishes the position of associate acting justice and sets forth the residency requirements of the village justice, associate acting justice, and the court clerk. Whereas notice of the public hearing was properly advertised in the official newspaper of the village, and whereas the public hearing was held on January 14th, 2026 at Village Hall, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to the proposed local law, whereas the village attorney has advised that no action is required by the Cold Spring Board of Trustees under the New York State State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SECRA), because the local law does not affect land use, development, or the environment, and whereas the village board of Cold Spring, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of said village to adopt the proposed local law as discussed during the public hearing. Now therefore be it resolved, the village board finds that the adoption of the proposed local law is in the best interest of the residents of the village and hereby adopts local law number 1/2026, entitled Local Law Establishing the Position of Associate Acting Justice and Establishing the Residency Requirements, Village Justice, Associate Acting Village Justice, and the Court Clerk of the Village of Cold Spring. Hereby directs that the village clerk enter the local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the Village of Cold Spring. Since this local law is subject to permissive referendum, the village clerk is also directed to post and publish the local law pursuant to the requirements in New York State Village Law, Article 9, and any petition requesting a referendum on local law must be received by the village clerk within 30 days of the adoption of this local law, and if no referendum petition is received within 30-day period, the clerk is directed to file due notice of the adoption of this local law with the Secretary of State of New York. Roll call vote.
Just want to clarify the laws number 1/2026.
I think it's up there.
Hopefully was the
Oh, yeah, it does say.
original, it's like 2020. A roll call vote. Trustee Bosie.
Aye.
Trustee Bordas.
Aye.
Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Trustee Wicks. Mayor Foley.
Hi.
Resolution is actually passed by a vote of 4-0-0-0. Resolution passes.
Thank you. Next up is resolution 2/2026, adopting local law 2. This is chapter 126 vehicles and traffic. It incorporates all of the feedback and discussions from the 2 public hearings that we had, and all of the follow-on adjustments that needed to be made post changes to Fair Street. So it all is here and fully documented. Would someone like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt proposed local law 226, amending chapter 126 vehicles and traffic.
So you have to read.
Yep.
And I'll read it. Resolution 2026, adopting local law 2 of 2026. Amendments to chapter 126 vehicles and traffic. The following resolution was offered by Trustee Hall for adoption and seconded by
Second.
Trustee Tweeps. Whereas a
Works.
Whereas a resolution was adopted by the Village of Cold Spring Board of Trustees on September 24, 2025, scheduling a public hearing to be held by the Village Board on October 8, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Village Hall to hear all interested persons on a proposed local law amending Chapter 126 of the Village Code, which includes but is not limited to the following: limiting vehicular parking in front of EV charging stations to electric vehicles, modifying certain schedules regarding stop sign locations, no parking areas and limited time areas, the proposed local law. And whereas the Village Board determined to hold a second public hearing on the same, and as such, a resolution was adopted by the Board of Trustees on October 22nd, 2025, scheduling a second public hearing to be held by the Village Board on November 12, 2025 at 7 p.m. And whereas notices of both public hearings were properly advertised in the official newspapers of the village, and whereas the public hearings were held on October 8, 2025 and on November 12, 2025 at the Village Hall with a 5-day written comment period after the November 12, 2025 hearing, and all parties were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to the proposed local law. And whereas the village attorney has advertised that no action is required by the Cold Spring Board of Trustees under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, because SECRA does not apply to these amendments to the vehicle and traffic law, since they do not affect land use, development, or the environment. And whereas the Village Board of Cold Spring, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of said village to adopt the proposed local law as discussed during the public hearings, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board 1 finds the adoption of the proposed local law is in the best interest of the residents of the village, and hereby adopts local law number 2 of 2026, entitled A Local Law to Amend Chapter 126 of the Village Code, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. And 2, hereby directs that the village clerk enter the local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the Village of Cold Spring, and to give due notice of the adoption of the local law to the Secretary of State of New York. On a roll call vote.
Trustee Bordas. Trustee Bosie.
Aye.
Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Trustee Wicks.
Aye.
Yes, Mayor Foley.
Hi.
Resolution was adopted by a vote of 4-0-0-0. There was 5. Excuse me. And ditto for 126. Forgive me. 5-0-0-0.
Before we adjourn, I have to apologize. I did not do a good job of reading the use table. It could have been a much shorter discussion if I had simply gone down before and then gone to the footnotes. So I'm sorry to have taken so much time, but we got there. We got all the facts we needed. Okay, make motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, are you still with us?
Are any of us still with us?
What?